It's no secret that Leslie and I have taste when it comes to buying organizational items that pretend to be revolutionary for your home. This podcast episode, we're going to talk about the 10 things that we would never buy.
You're listening to the Declutter Hub podcast, bringing you tried and tested, no-nonsense tips and advice from the leading experts in decluttering and organising your home. Now here are your hosts, Ingrid Jansen and Leslie Spellman.
Hello and welcome, listeners. I'm Ingrid.
And I'm Leslie.
We're delighted you're here to join us as part of your decluttering journey. So whether you're brand new today or have been listening in for ages, we want to say a warm welcome and thank you. It means so much to us you turn up every week to listen and support us while we talk all things decluttering and organizing.
We'd love to help more people with their quest for a clutter-free home, and our podcast is a fantastic way for people to be inspired to take action. We have a favour to ask. If you like what you hear, be sure to hit the follow or subscribe button on your podcast player and share us with your friends or leave us a review. Go to declutterhub.com/review to see exactly how to do that.
Well, Leslie, I'm excited today because it's a 10 Things podcast and you know that I love them. I know you love them too, but we're all a bit excited, aren't we, when we do a 10 Things podcast.
Yeah, we do love a 10 Things podcast because we have a little debate, don't we, Ingrid, where we chat through what's going to make it to our top 10 list. And we agree and disagree on some of these things. So it's always a little bit contentious, but we agree on what the list is going to be. It doesn't mean to say that we're going to agree as we hit each of those things today. But it's an interesting list, isn't it, Ingrid?
Yes, I think we've come up with some interesting things that we want to talk about. So let's start with number one. And it's a little bit of a no-brainer, but I think it's important enough that we talk about this again because we see this a lot in our clients' houses that they make this mistake and they buy round containers. Round containers is the thing we do not buy.
I know. Why do we not buy round containers? Because they take up a lot of space. They look nice, right? There's a reason why people buy round containers. Because if you are looking at the aesthetic of something, round typically looks kind of calmer on the eye than square or rectangle. And so that's why our eyes are drawn to beautiful round containers. But if we are struggling for space a little bit, you can really do without the round containers because around the corners, you're just missing that extra bit of space that you might need. And they don't fit neatly together in a cupboard, do they, Ingrid? So round containers are fantastic when it's all about the aesthetic and it's all about the placement. But if you're looking something to maximize your storage, then go square and rectangular every time.
I know, Leslie. And I think the perfect example here is always around Christmas time, isn't it? When you can buy the quality street boxes. I mean, they're now octagonal and no longer round, but it's just like, yeah, I really want to like this. But it's got to be recycled.
What do you mean? I feel like they were always octagonal. Are you thinking of roses?
Oh, maybe roses. I'm mistaken. It's roses indeed. I don't buy roses, but sometimes you get given these things, don't you?
Yeah, we've actually talked about roses and Quality Street before, I think, in the podcast. And Ingrid and I would be perfect, actually, if we had a box of Quality Street and a box of roses. We'd be fine because Ingrid was in more of a Quality Street gal with the nuts and the caramels and all that kind of stuff. And I'm definitely a cream gal, so I'd be on the orange creams and the coffee creams and all that kind of stuff. If you're not from the UK, you probably have no idea what Quality Street or roses are. So shall we move on?
Yes, let's go to number two, which is my biggest, I think, pet hate from the whole list. The harmonica file, aka the accordion file. I keep calling it a harmonica file because in my head it looks like a harmonica, but it's called an can't think of it now, Leslie. An accordion file.
Now, do you know what a harmonica actually looks like? We've talked about this so many times, right? So if you've been listening for a while, do you know what a harmonica actually is?
I know, but
right, explain what a harmonica is to me.
I know. A harmonica is that you put in your mouth and you can go back and forth, and accordion is that you open back and forth. But I think I just once got it in my head that it's called a harmonica. I'm fully aware it's called an accordion. But in my head, it's like stuck in there now. I think I'm nearly 50, Leslie. It's just stuck in there forever.
You know what, Ingrid? I think now you've made me think of it as as a harmonica final. Sorry, I'm getting a little confused. Like whenever we talk about this, I'm like, which one is it? Is it harmonica? Is it accordion? I have to
Yeah.
do a little reset in my own mind. Anyway, what is an accordion file? Right. Okay. So just to explain this so that you can visualize it a little bit more, it's one of those files that opens up absolutely like an accordion. It kind of spreads from the top almost, and you slot your paperwork into it. Now, the problem that we've got is that there's not an even distribution of paper. So what happens is that they fall over. They're also quite tight on how much paperwork you can get in them. And so you can't get your papers in and out really easily. We do have a slight caveat. They are useful for some things. So they are useful if you constantly have to go back and forth to, I don't know, a lawyer, a doctor with medical notes. So for a temporary thing where you would need to take a large amount of papers, well, not really that large, but more than you ordinarily would to a meeting, perhaps an accordion file might work for a temporary solution, but an accordion file does not work in our experience for larger amounts of paperwork for loads of reasons. There's barriers, it falls over, they're flimsy, you can't fit them in, they get lost, they're not easy to label. So all in all, we really, really detest accordion files.
I think I think I was doing a consultation with a new client the other day, and I spotted one again, and I was like, "There's one. They're still out there."
Oh, they're definitely out there. I think loads of people will be like, I love my accordion file. What are you saying, Ingrid and Leslie?
I know. I'm sorry. It just does not work for me at all. So anyway, I think a brilliant number two. Let's move on to number three, Leslie. This is what you came up with. I went, yes,
Yes,
yes.
you know what? And actually, the reasons why I dislike it so intensely are very similar, actually, although slightly different to the reasons why I don't like to use the word hate, but it's detest. I think that's like karma.
Oh, I
Maybe
don't
it
know.
can't. I know it's quite strong, isn't it? Quite
Yeah.
strong. Anyway, it's birthday card organizers. Okay. So you go to a stationery store or a card store or whatever, and they sell like things where they categorize already. It's either January, February, March, April, etc., or it's christening, birthday, child's birthday, wedding,
New
engagement.
home. Yeah.
Yeah, all that, right? And so the idea is that you buy cards in advance and you have them to hand in this birthday card organizer. Why do I not like that idea? Because I think it encourages you to have a stock of things that you may not need, number one.
Hmm.
Um, I think you need to buy a card for the person that you're buying it for and to have kind of generic cards. It works in some instances if you get cut short a little bit. So it's a good idea to have a few kind of generic birthday cards. If suddenly you wake up and go, oh my word, I forgot this person's birthday, I need to send it today. Of course it's useful, but I'm not sure you need, if you're going to go for a christening, right? That's going to be a very special person. And you're not going to use a generic christening card that you bought 4 years ago for somebody who had not had a baby at that point.
Yeah.
Am I right? Am I
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I think for me, the fact is that people who would buy a birthday card organizer are probably birthday card writing people. So they probably have a lot more that will fit in the tiny box. So the box really then either limits you in how many cards you have, or it can be very easy to mislay a card because you maybe slotted in the wrong thing if you're in a hurry. And it really, if the card is larger, then it doesn't fit the box. So then the box needs to be bigger, but then where you're going to store, I think it's just fraught with complication.
It's limiting, I think. It's very
Yeah.
limiting, isn't it? So do I keep a back stock of cards? I keep a small amount of cards in a sort of basic shoebox that I constantly go through if I need something. So I do keep a back stock of cards, but I don't keep them in a January, February, March scenario and have a very limited number of cards. I think the problem is if you invest in a birthday card organizer, your mind is going to take you to a place where you feel that you need to fill those categories in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's kind of against what we believe because we believe that you should only have things that you really truly need. And so do you need a christening card, a new home card, an engagement card, a No, probably not.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think also cards can get a little bit tatty if they've been in boxes and organizers for years. They get a bit bent and the edges get a bit crooked. And it's like, but if you're going to a special occasion like a wedding, you want to buy a new card. You're going to go out and go, what fits this couple? What's the message that I want to portray? So having, a couple of thank you cards and a couple of birthday cards, but you don't need a fancy birthday card organizer for that.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, am I going to calm down? I don't think I'm going to calm down on number 4. I'm not going to lie, Ingrid.
Okay, go for it, Leslie.
Okay, so things that we would never buy that we feel are completely useless pieces of kit. And there will always be an exception to the rule, right? There's always going to be somebody out there who goes, I use mine every single day and I love it. But in general, we get taken in by these organizational things, think we're going to change a life, and then we see them sort of just lying there, kind of unused and unloved in corners. And a trouser press is one of those things, isn't it, Ingrid? How many trouser presses have you seen in your travels?
Well, on my travels, loads. I mean, they've got, of course, they always have them in hotels. And
I know
think,
why though. Why do they
I
have them in
I
hotels?
think because they think that a lot of people who travel for work, like business women and men, want a trouser press to press their suit before they go to a meeting. So I think that's how they've ended up.
It's like something from the 70s and 80s, right?
I know, but they're still there. And I think because people then go on holiday and saw that in hotels and thought, oh, wow, that's an amazing idea. I need to get me one of these for my own house because this is amazing. But then it just never works out, really, does it? It's the same with like a trouser press is really to press it, but it's also just the suit hangers. I think you mean that as well, don't you, Leslie?
Yeah. They've got like a hanger on it. So yeah, there's a trouser press, or there's like I think they call them a valet.
Yeah.
Right? I think they're called a suit valet or something. And so like a stand that you would have.
Yeah.
Where you would put your kind of jacket that you'd worn that day at work. I find it very kind of, we've moved on from that, right?
Yeah, I would say so.
You know what I mean?
But, I think, Leslie, besides the fact that we moved on to it, what do we see? It becomes a valet drobe, a trouser press drobe. And there's like 12 ties, and there's a random pair of socks on them. And then there's 3 pairs of trousers. And then it nearly bulges over because there's far too many clothes on the thing that you think, I thought this was for like one trouser and one jacket. What is on this thing?
Yeah.
That is the problem.
That's where we
valet
get them.
drobe, a valet.
Valet drobe. Like, we keep talking about drobes, and some people who are new in our world are like, what's a drobe? Do you know what I mean? So basically, in the Declutter Hub, there's a general thing out there called a floor drobe, which is kind of, the idea is that it's not a wardrobe. You chuck your stuff on the floor and it becomes a floor drobe. But we've taken it to the next level to chair drobes and banister drobes and door drobes. And now we've got a valet drobe, which is a completely new one. But anyway, before we finish on the trouser press, because Ingrid's husband still works in the hotel business, right? I want to know, do new hotels still put trouser presses in rooms?
I think it really now depends on the kind of how many stars a hotel has. I think if it's like a luxury hotel, I would think they probably would still put them in. I would say so.
But I'm not asking for you what you think or what you suspect. I'm asking what the reality is, right?
Okay, well, I can pause this podcast and call him and see, but
I'm just asking you. So that's just going into my head. So if anybody knows, if anybody else is in the hotel business, apart from his husband, who can tell you just tonight, and you can send me a WhatsApp later.
Yeah.
I would love to know. Or maybe next time I go to a lovely hotel, I can have a look. I can't remember because I just would try and block them out of my mind if I see them. So maybe
I think they're disappearing. I think they're disappearing. I think people are over them now.
Yeah, people don't really wear suits that much anymore, right? I mean, they do. A lot of people do, but not more. I would say more people going to work don't wear suits than do, right?
I think it's changed a lot. I think also all working from home and not traveling so much during COVID and stuff. I think it's really changed the way people dress. And I think we've become a bit more casual. But I think there's still loads of people in offices and things like that still would wear suits, but maybe not with the tie and the whole thing. I think it's all become a little bit more casual.
It has indeed. Okay.
Right.
Anyways, let's go to number 5 because we did get a little bit waylaid with the trousers. But let's talk about our number 5. And we do both agree with this and feel quite strongly about it.
Yeah. I think because they look so nice. When you see them in the shop, you're like, oh, that looks
Are you building it
nice.
up? You need to say what it is. Oh, what looks nice? We're not even saying what it is yet. Building it up to be something
I know.
special.
And then we're like, don't buy it.
Yeah.
It's an acrylic makeup organizer. Yes. They look nice, Leslie. Let's be honest about it. I've been tempted once or twice to go, it looks so nice. Maybe I should get me one. And I'm like, no, 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 it doesn't work. Let's not do this.
I think the problem is if you're in that headspace where you want something to organize your makeup, right?
Mhm.
You're going to have loads of makeup.
Yeah.
And typically, the holes in an acrylic makeup organizer are limiting.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're quite small sections.
Yeah.
Now, I feel like it could work if you are willing to give loads of space up and have lots of different organizers for different things. So I feel like it could be a good way for you to categorize your things. But I think that you've got to think about it being multiple, because if you need an organizer for your makeup, you're probably going to need more than one of these acrylic organizers.
Mhm.
That's
But
my thoughts on it.
but you know what, Leslie? I don't have a lot of makeup, but I still wouldn't buy an acrylic organizer because the holes are never the right size. Or you just have one hole short for to put another lipstick in, or the hole that is supposed to be for things you don't have, like brushes and things. Or then you think, but I actually have a larger makeup palette with eyeshadow and a blushes up, and then that doesn't fit in there because there's no hole that can cover something larger. The idea looks great, but it never seems to work. And I found many of them over the years.
Yeah, and finding the right one. I'm pretty sure that there will be something out there that does do that, right?
Mm.
There will probably be things for MUAs that definitely cover, like makeup artists, that is, just in case you're wondering. Do you watch Glow Up? Do you not watch Glow Up?
No, no.
No, so I love an MUA. So MUA stands for makeup artist. But I'm sure that there will be acrylic organizers out there that are designed for bulk
Yeah,
makeup storage. Of
yeah,
course, there will be. Everybody's found a solution to everything. But in general, the things that you would find in your common or garden shop are probably not going to be suitable. So we
yeah,
do have a dislike, and our alternative to that is to just put things in a normal box and be able to rummage around a little bit and find
yeah,
what you need, right?
yeah. Or it's just a toiletry makeup bag or something like that. I think that suits us well. And I
I
think,
prefer a
and
box to a bag. I do prefer a box to a bag. I'm not going to lie. See, a bag to me would be another barrier because it would need a zip.
yeah,
So I
good
have
point.
mine split. I've got kind of palettes in one box, which is like eyeshadows, blusher, kind of
Mm.
flat, not
Yeah,
full palettes, but just things that are in a kind of thing that closes. And
yeah,
then my other one's got my kind of eyeliners and lipsticks that are a bit more random in terms of shape and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah,
I've got it
yeah.
split.
I've got even less makeup. I've got one other thing why I don't like acrylic makeup things, Leslie.
Right.
Because when you buy them brand new, they're like beautiful. As soon as you put makeup in it and it spills and there's like, because it gets a bit, it doesn't look nice anymore within like days, it's not like for months will stay nice, but as soon as you smudge something, they are an absolute pain to clean. So
Agreed. Good list, Ingrid. Good.
yeah, on that
Good.
note,
Yes. Good
let's
place
go
to
to a
end it.
break and yeah, let's calm down a little bit. And then after the break, we'll be back with 5 more. Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed your break. We are continuing chatting about the 10 things that Leslie and I would never buy. And we had 5, I think, really good ones.
Can I
But
just ask you a question before you go on, Ingrid? When you say that you hope that they enjoyed their break, what do you think that they did? Like, I was just wondering what you think that they did.
well, maybe they got themselves a cup of tea or something while there was a break, maybe
Well,
that's
in that 30 seconds that we took a break. Yeah. Well, have you enjoyed your break too? And listened to Ingrid and I's dulcet tones. So yeah, but thank you for saying that, Ingrid.
well,
How
you're
kind.
you're welcome. And let's move on to number 6. I think let's be honest, Leslie. I think these next 5 we kind of agree, but not on all of them. So that might be interesting. So, but the next one we definitely agree. So let's go to number 6.
Number 6 is only going to be relevant if you have got small children at home. So if you're a parent or a grandparent or have kids around,
Child,
basically.
maybe a childminder or a
You know, like,
carer or
exactly, yeah. About kids. And it's going to be contentious. I know it's going to be contentious, right? Is toy tables. I don't know what the word for them is, but so visualize this, a kind of largish table that sits in the middle of a playroom, if you're lucky enough to have one. Quite often it would have like a track on it, like a road or a train track or something like that with a scene on it. And the idea is that your child or children are going to have this lovely idyllic way where they're going to play it with them. They're going to use it to scoot their little trains or their little cars along it or whatever that might be. And yeah, nice idea. Look fantastic when they first go in a beautiful playroom. But what happens is it's just a table and it ends up with just stuff all over it. And the kids can't scoot their little trains or cars around the table because there's no space, because it's piled up with random things and plates and glasses and other toys and all that kind of stuff. So we are big fans when we put together playrooms and because quite often we look at storage, don't we, for clients, and they ask us for advice and what the makeup of that playroom should be. We are all about put as much storage in there as possible to put things away and let your kids have the space on the floor, if possible, to do these kind of things. Slightly different for arts and crafts, because quite often they need to sit up at a table with glitter and paints and all that kind of stuff. But for general play, we are big believers in use the floor.
yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've just recently decluttered one at a client of mine because it was like it just became a dumping ground for lots of other things that had nothing to do with the trains or the roads or whatever, and it just doesn't work. Same with, I mean, as another one of my clients has one of those little tables to do arts and crafts, but instead of having a drawer where you can put the pencils in, you can put half of the middle of the table up and then got kind of a box under it where you can put, and it's like, how are you going to do that? Because constantly stuff lands on the table because it's a flat surface. And then when you want to do actually drawing, you first have to clear the whole table, then move the middle bit of the table up to get the pencils out. It just doesn't work. Does not work. And it's a shame.
I just wonder whether people who create this kind of product create things for things that to play into people's ideas of what they would like
Mm.
to happen. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Rather
Yeah.
than practicalities.
Yeah.
So many of these things that we're talking about today are very much about desire, aspiration, rather than practicality. And I think that's why we have a bit of a loathing for these things, because we're like, they just don't work in a lot of instances. These things would work, but maybe not in our community or people that are listening to our podcast or in our world, because generally the people who are listening to us are people who haven't quite got it right yet in the clutter world. And so people who are a little bit more overwhelmed, have got clutter that they need to deal with. These items probably are perfect for people who are very meticulous, right? That have got that completely sewn up, the kind of Mrs. Hinches of this world who devote so much time and energy to cleaning, to sorting, to organizing and living and breathe that. Perfect for those kind of people, but you've really got to be realistic about whether that's you. If it is, brilliant. Go ahead and buy your toy table and have this beautiful thing and your kids and it's all idyllic and stuff. But if not, it's just about this little dose of realism. Like, am I ever going to maintain that? Am I ever going to make sure that tabletop is completely clear for my children to play on, for example?
Yeah.
I think that's what it's all about, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Let's move on to the next one, Leslie. Yeah, it returns on a regular basis because they are the tiered coat hangers that we really don't like. It's one hanger with 5 rods that you can then put different kinds of trousers over each other. But the thing is, you lose complete visibility, and getting the bottom couple out from a tiered hanger is hard. And the hanger gets really heavy with 5 pairs of trousers, so it's then tricky to get it out of the wardrobe in the first place.
So many reasons, Ingrid, why we dislike a tiered hanger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, when we see a wardrobe, we literally are chomping at the bit to get them out and in the bag to
Yeah.
declutter.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And I think all professional organisers would agree with this as well. They just don't work. They promise, of course, you look at those, you're overwhelmed with stuff in your wardrobe. You're like, that's perfect. I don't need 5 hangers. I can put it all on one. But of course, the clothes have still got to fit. It's the clothes that take up the space, not the hanger. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, we don't really like a tiered hanger, do we?
And in an extension of that, Leslie, what you sometimes see when people buy new wardrobes, they get like a higher up rod for the jackets. And then below that, they put this beautiful piece of furniture, they think, with like the rods next to each other. So you can put the trousers over easily. It looks really nice. But again, it doesn't work because you can't put enough clothes in. It wastes a lot of space.
It
So
does.
very similar.
It does work. Of course it works if
Mhm.
you have a very pared down wardrobe.
Yeah.
If it's all about the aesthetic,
Yep.
of course it can work. You can buy them from IKEA. I mean, I
Yep.
skip past them in a heart because most people, let's face it, have got wardrobes that are mostly packed to the brim, right? There's not loads of maneuvering space. And so you've really got to think, have I got a capsule wardrobe with only 7 pairs of trousers in it? If you have and you want it to look beautiful, of course they work because you can slide them on and off easily. So they do work in that instance, but it's all about this realism, isn't it? What is mine, what are my needs? I think that's important.
Yep. Yep. Oh, Leslie, all right. Let's go to number 8. And number 8 is a wine rack.
Contentious one.
Yeah.
Interesting. Kind of, she gets what I'm saying, I get what she's saying, but we wanted to talk about it, didn't we?
Yeah.
So this started out with me talking really about when you are putting kitchens together. So if you are creating a kitchen from scratch, for some of us are lucky enough to every few years, 10 years, 20 years, whatever, to have a new kitchen. And we get a lovely kitchen designer who comes round who says, oh, they've got this fantastic storage solution, same principle, very aspirational. How lovely would that be to have this lovely section in my kitchen for what I'd really love is a wine fridge, but actually what I'm going to have is a wine rack. And we can, they were very popular like 20 years ago to put them in little, because they're kind of not that wide. And so you have all these little sections, don't you, to put wine bottles in on their sides. And I just think, again, it's a lot of space to give over to probably 8 bottles of wine, I would say, in one
Yeah.
section.
6 maybe.
Yeah. And so I would not encourage putting those kind of wine racks into kitchens if you are, if you're going from scratch. I'm also a little bit anti wine racks in general. But I understand the purpose of them because, and this is what we were talking about, is having wine bottles on their side rather than upright is really designed for people who have expensive fine wines, right? Now, if you're like me, I'm not saying I never drink a nice bottle of wine, but I never really buy a bottle of wine that's, pushing the boat out 15 quid. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Mhm.
and that's really like maybe like a really special occasion. Normally I'm at my £8.99 maximum, £6.99 if it's on offer. That's where my kind of wine is. I'm not saying I've never buy a nice expensive bottle of wine, and I'm not saying I've never been given a bottle of wine, which is supposed to last 10 years and stuff. Although I did open one that was given on my 30th, on my 40th, when you're supposed to open it, and it was not nice. So that kind of failed. But they're designed for that. And so I think you can get much more wine if you want to store like a backlog of wine, like or a kind of large quantity of wine, just having them upright in a cupboard and don't need a wine rack. You disagree, Ingrid, right?
Yes. Because I disagree with the whole kitchen thing. I agree with that I should get a wine fridge. But that's all. If I ever get a new kitchen, I'm going to get a wine fridge. That's
You
for
agree
sure.
with the kitchen. You said you
Yeah.
disagree. Now, can we clarify? You do agree, even though you said disagree.
Sorry. So I agree with the fact that those cubby holes for 6 bottles of wine in a kitchen does not work. Because they end up not having wine. They suddenly have squash. They've got lemonade, and then things don't fit, and then the lemonade
It's
bottles are
oil.
big, and then it gets a dumping ground for other stuff, and nobody knows anymore. Well, it originally was designed for wine, and people maybe go off wine, and then they're like, "Now I've got this wine thing in my kitchen." I agree with the wine fridge. Let's clarify this. I would love a wine fridge at one point in my life. Not going to happen probably, but that's okay. I can dream away. But I do have a wine rack in my living room, not a gigantic one, but a small wine rack because we do have a couple of nice bottles of wine and they've been there for a long time because some of them are, especially reds, can stay there for a long time.
Well, good luck with that. I hope you don't have the same experience that I did.
I know we were on a special occasion, we opened something. So yeah, but not for a normal wine for a couple of pounds or a couple of euros that when I go to France, we load up some boxes of wine and yeah, they can just stay upright because they're not expensive wines. They don't need to lie flat. They can just go in a cupboard somewhere. So maybe a bit contentious, but yeah,
Yeah,
don't fall in the
no.
trap of all this fancy storage and then not using it or not
I've
using it.
decluttered a lot of wine racks in my time. I'm not going
Yeah.
to lie. I bet you have as well.
I actually don't think I've decluttered a lot of wine racks,
Are you
Leslie.
trying to encourage people to keep wine racks?
I'm encouraging people not to put them in a kitchen when they put a new kitchen in. That's what I'm encouraging people.
I think you just need to evaluate the wine rack and
Yeah.
whether it's serving the purpose that you intended it for. Because
Yeah.
I think it's one of those things that becomes like a piece of the furniture.
Yes.
Yeah, you'd agree with that, right?
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that's always there. It's been there for 10, 15 years. You know, some of these wine racks are beautiful and deserve their place as a piece of furniture. Some of them are very basic, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it's kind of a little bit of a throwback sometimes to, I'm going to say 90s, you know, a lot of them. How long have you had your wine rack?
Oh,
Since the 90s.
yeah, probably.
And so I think
Probably.
it depends. Would I give it space in my living room? Depends what it looks like, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I would want it to be aesthetically beautiful as well as
Yeah.
a practical thing if it was in my living room.
Yeah.
And on that
Anyway.
note, move on from the wine
Yeah.
rack.
Yeah. We're like going off on a tangent because we've got another really, I think, quite two good ones. So the next one, number 9. Oh, I feel we're going to get emails about this, Leslie. But it's a muck tree. So I hope I pronounced it right. It's not a muck shot, it's a muck tree. So a
Yes.
muck tree, it's those normally wooden or metallic things that you put your mugs on, and then you put them on the kitchen counter, and then it's kind of easy to get a mug when you're getting a coffee. I think that's the idea about a muck tree. But yeah, please don't give that to me.
Yeah, I think people love their mug trees, but again, I think for them to serve the purpose that they're intended. So it's probably a little bit of a throwback. I think you can still
Mm.
get them now. I actually did buy one for my father-in-law, did his kitchen like a year ago or something. But it wasn't a tree. It was like one where you kind of slot them into a thing, like you kind of put them down, like they all stack on top of each other, but in like a container thing.
Yeah.
Because he does grab things from the work surface. Do you know what I mean? It's a little bit older and stuff. And so I think he quite liked that. But I think it's very reliant on it being full of mugs rather than half empty. So that's one of the things, is that
Mhm.
it's supposed to be an ornament almost, right? A mug
Yeah.
tree. That's the thing. So it relies on you having all the mugs the same. If it's going to look nice on your work surface, on your countertop, it's going to have to be probably full of mugs and not 2 mugs there out of 6 and the other 4 in the dishwasher or in the washing up. And all the mugs are going to need to be the same. And our experience is that people kind of have a bit of a mishmash of mugs, have favourite mugs. You know, they might have 6 white mugs that they use regularly, but they'll have their favourite mug, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, but it's just more clutter on a countertop, I think is what
Yeah.
we're saying.
Yeah.
And that you typically have more than 6 mugs. And so you're going to have your mugs then in 2 separate places, aren't you?
And what I think happens sometimes as well, the things at the back of a muck tree don't get grabbed so easily because they're at the back, so they end up getting dusty and manky. And then you need to wash them up before you can use them because they're out. And of course, in the kitchen, it is dusty. And, when you cook, you've got all the particles in the air. So it gets a bit dusty and manky, I think. So I'm just not a fan. And I
know.
think I like my counter space to be able to prepare food and not have lots of stuff out. So, yeah, that's not work for me, a mock tree. Not a
I
fan.
think I agree. I agree. I can see how they would work and I can see how people would like them, right? I definitely can. But in my mind, I envisage what that looks like and what kind of, it needs to be clear, clutter-free countertop, in my opinion,
Yeah.
for a mug tree to work. So if that is you, go ahead and keep your mug tree and just ignore the vitriol that Ingrid has about mug trees.
Let's go on to the last one, Leslie. The last one of organizational things that we would never buy for our houses is a tin stacker.
Yes.
Tin stacker. It
Yeah.
looks nice, though. I'm a bit on the fence about this one, but you tell me first, and then I'll see if you can change my mind.
I think it's all about, so you can buy them a lot of places, right? And the idea is it's like a tiered kind of shelf that you could put, I don't know, 3 tins of baked beans on. Yeah, one at the front, one on the next shelf, one on the shelf behind, and you'll be able to see that you've got 3 tins of baked beans, right? So for me, who's all about maximizing storage, I'm like, but what about the empty space that's underneath of the tins?
Mhm.
Like, I would rather line things up and have 4 tins of beans in that space and have them stacked on top of each other, because tins can easily stack on top of each other, right?
Yeah.
And so that's the way I would do it. I would do it more like that, because I think you're just wasting valuable space.
Mhm.
And actually, if you do it the right way in terms of lining things up, you can still see what you have and you can stack things on top of each other.
Yeah. I think for me, Leslie, I'm a bit on the fence on this one because I think it really depends on your cupboard.
Yes.
So I think if it is a smaller cupboard that's a little bit higher up, the tin stacker can work because it gives you that visibility. Because if you have to look up, I'm like looking high up now. If you're listening, you can't see this, but I'm like trying to show. Leslie, if you're looking higher up, it's different. You can see the first row, but then you can't see what's behind. I think with a tin stacker, that can help a little bit. But I think, and what then happens, you need to start measuring and start to see how can I, does it fit my cupboard? Do I have extra space on the side? What am I going to put in there then? And in a bigger cupboard, I think a tin stacker doesn't work because it kind of gets lost in the depth and the width of the cupboard. So I've seen some, there we go. Here we go, Leslie. I've seen some nice pictures on the socials where it looks nice. And then I'm like, it does look nice, but in practicality, it's just doesn't really work. But I mean, there might be some people like, that's the best thing I've ever bought.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there absolutely will be.
Yeah.
And I think there will, in these 10 organizational things that we would never buy for our homes, there will be loads of people out there who are like, I love my tin stacker. I could not do without my mug tree. Of course, I have a wine rack. I've got tiered coat hangers to wear, and my kids play nicely on their toy tables, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So there's always that. But I suppose what we do is we look at people who are cluttered, people who are overwhelmed, and people who typically search for an answer
Yeah.
to their clutter problems by buying organizational things that promise so much and deliver so little. And I think that that's what we're talking about. The bottom line is you've got to declutter and organize well, and an organizational solution often isn't the answer, even though it promises that it is. And that's why we have been very vocal as normal. I think we've kept it in, actually, Ingrid. I think we've kept it in nicely. And yes, that's the end of our list.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. So I'm now like waiting for the emails to come in and the comments on the podcast. So let us know. Go to declutterhub.com/234 and you can leave us a comment. Maybe you're like, well, I am so with you, Leslie Ingrid. I'm going to declutter all these items. Or maybe you're like, what? Worst podcast ever. What do you mean declutter my mug tree? I'm not going to do that. I would love to know. So let us know. We would love to know.
So, Ingrid, what are we going to be talking about in next week's podcast?
Next week, we're going to talk about what is decluttering worth to me. So you just have to tune in and listen what it's all about.
You mean, what is it worth to me, to me, Leslie, or you, Ingrid?
Or maybe you, everybody. Anyway, listen in next week to hear what it's all about. Thanks, everybody, for being here.
Thanks so much for listening to the Declutter Hub podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to us in your podcast player so you don't miss an episode, and we'll see you next week.